welcome to our true crime podcast, 26 to Life, where we are so professional. Rosie's just doing some last minute research, so I'm just going to do the intro for us. 26 to Life Pod is a podcast where me and my best friend of over 26 years now have done officially longer than a life sentence together. So we now make a podcast together. Please be warned that all of our podcasts contain difficult topics. Today's one will include, but is not limited to, murder, rape, sexual abuse, harm to minors, child abuse, kidnapping,
animal cruelty.
Oh no!
I know.
I thought we were never gonna do that.
I mean, it's not too much. It's only, it just like hints on it, you know? It's not like
I thought the whole point was that was our one rule, was we could never, ever.
This is just a big case, and it needs to be spoken about.
Okay. How much did I panic you earlier? Did I scare you?
Yeah, I mean, you literally didn't respond to me. You're like, I'm vomiting, and then you just didn't say anything. And I was like, okay, do I need to be doing something here?
I was just mid-vomit.
Okay, but I envisioned you by yourself on your bathroom floor, passed out, choked on your own vomit, and nobody was going to be coming home for hours. And then I thought, oh my God, what if the next person who comes home is your sweet baby boy and he's the one who finds you like that? He would be traumatized. I just couldn't do that to him, so...
Okay. I didn't reply for 9 minutes.
Unacceptable. That is genuinely unacceptable. Like,
oh my
If it got to 10, I would have called the police.
And they would have arrived and been like, there's some crazy woman in Scotland on the phone and she is adamant that you're dead.
Hi, you need to do a welfare check on my friend. She said she was vomiting and now she hasn't responded in 10 minutes. They'd have been like, that doesn't sound like an emergency. And I'd be like, but it definitely is. I'm sorry.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Right.
Don't ever do that again.
I'm sorry. Let's get started, me and more.
26th of November 2000. 16-year-old Leanne Tiernan and 15-year-old Sarah Whitehouse had gone shopping in...
Sorry, Leanne Tiernan?
Tiernan. It's...
Tiernan. T-I-E-R.
Yeah,
okay.
Nan. Yeah.
Tiernan. Year 2000. Oh, millennium.
Yeah, do you recognise those names?
No, you said Leanne Tiernan and I was like, Leanne
Tiernan.
Tiernan.
And 15-year-old Sarah Whitehouse had gone shopping together in Leeds town centre. This was like their annual Christmas shopping trip. You know, when you're 16 and you have like pocket money, you've asked your mum for some money and you just go out and you just buy people stupid gifts. But just like hang around in the shopping centre was like the most fun that you could have when you were 16.
And buy a like £6 Topshop t-shirt.
Oh my God. Yes, everything was in the sale. And then you just were so cool because you had something from Topshop. Honestly.
Yeah.
They both got the bus home together where they live in a town called Bramley. So this is all in the area. It's technically in Leeds, which is in Yorkshire, but they live in a little town called...
Leeds is in Yorkshire?
Yeah.
But I thought Yorkshire was really far north.
Leeds is really far north.
Oh. I thought Leeds was near Manchester.
It's in West Yorkshire. So, I mean, it is West Yorkshire, okay. But Yorkshire has got 4 counties. It's got East Riding of Yorkshire, North Yorkshire, South Yorkshire and West Yorkshire.
Oh, wow. Educational podcast, guys.
Learn something new every day. But yeah, so they are based in Bramley, which is just inside of Leeds. And so they were getting the bus home to Bramley and they start walking home. Sarah's house was the closest, but she still had a little bit of a walk, but then so they have to kind of like split paths and they start walking in different directions. And that was around 4:50. So they knew that they both had got off the bus and started walking and then split up at 4:50. They didn't live that far from each other, like I said. So when Sarah got home, she kind of already knew that when she got home would be about the same time that Leanne would be getting home. So she got home and she called her friend, just like they normally do. They called her friend and were surprised to hear that she hadn't got back yet. So Leanne hadn't made it home. At 5:20 p.m, Leanne's mum, Sharon...
Sorry.
Go on.
Question. When you say she called and found out she hasn't made it home yet, this is house phone time? Like she's
No,
called
so
them.
she did have a mobile, but I guess she just didn't answer. She didn't
Okay.
get an answer from her. So at 5:20 p.m., Leanne's mum, Sharon, she called Leanne's mobile and she also got no answer. She was already pretty frantic. She was like, why is she not home yet? It doesn't take that long. If her friend Sarah has got home, there's no reason why Leanne shouldn't be here. So at 7
So
p.m.
roughly, how long has it taken her to walk? Like how long after she's
Well,
left Sarah at the bus
if
stop?
so she was at 5. They got off the bus at 4:50, and at
So half an hour.
5:20, yeah, Leanne's mum called her mobile. So that was about half an hour, and it shouldn't have taken half an hour for her to get home.
Okay.
But she left it thinking maybe she bumped into someone, maybe she went to somebody else's house. I don't know.
Stopped at the shop, anything?
Exactly. But by 7 p.m., she was frantic and she decided enough was enough and she called the police to report her missing. The police stepped up and started the investigation immediately. I know. They did so much. They knocked on over 2,000 doors. They executed like 12 search warrants, took DNA from over 140 men. In the area, they like walked the way that Leanne would have been walking home, and like they walked through it with Sarah and with Leanne's sister just to know exactly the route that she would have taken. And they picked up like 400 articles of possible evidence. So like it was like
Cigarette butts,
cigarette butts, cans,
rubbish,
like
wrappers.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is what they were looking at with the DNA that they were collecting.
Do you know what's really interesting is how many warrants and DNA samples they were able to get? Because obviously, in order to do that, I'd be interested to know the law on that. Did they say whether or not at that point they were matching the DNA to evidence on the body?
No, so
Or
they haven't found a body. They haven't found a body
sorry,
yet.
not body,
They just
evidence. Like,
yeah.
they,
So
you know, they're taking
had
DNA samples. What are they doing with those?
So all of the evidence that they had collected, so like the cigarette butts, the cans, the wrappers, they were trying to get DNA evidence off of those and matching it with the DNA samples they'd taken from 140 different men. So some of those were people that were close to Leanne, their family members, like people that she might have come in contact with, people that live in the area, all sorts of people.
Look at me just assuming that she's dead. Terrible.
Yeah,
terrible,
honestly,
terrible.
Please. So with all of that, with the DNA and the 2,000 doors that they knocked on, they also searched 800 sheds as well. There was a £10,000 reward to anyone who could provide information leading to an arrest, and her details were even put on milk cartons across Britain, which, like, I don't think that the milk carton thing really worked that much, but it was just the fact that this was across the whole of Britain. You know, they weren't just keeping it in Leeds. They were spreading this information.
You know that faces on milk carton things? Was that an American or a British initiative?
It started in the United States in the early 80s and it faded out in the 1990s. But this case was obviously in 2000. So perhaps it was just something that they did specific to this case. Yeah, that would be that's interesting. I didn't read anything about that specifically. It was just something that kind of came up to iterate the lengths that they were going through.
I wonder if it's to do with her age. You know, because she's 16, there's a chance she might be a runaway, they might be thinking, and I'm not saying that's what it is, and I know that's probably not what it is, but I wonder if they were trying to, you know, she's more likely to be, I don't know, trafficked maybe?
Yeah, that's true. That is true. But I didn't see any theories about them thinking that she could have been a runaway either. They were pretty much just looking for her. They didn't assume that she had left of her own accord. They pretty much said that if she could have, her mum said that if she could have called, she would have. She would have. There not many people were really questioning that. So yeah, they were really working hard.
It like, yeah. Okay, let's go.
I know, right? But what made this whole search difficult was that there was such varying terrain in this area. Not only were there hundreds of houses, but there were also open areas, there were woodlands, there were canals, drainage shafts and wells that they had to consider as well. The search eventually involved uniformed officers dog squad, mounted section, which I think is horses, underwater search and air support. They drained a 3-mile stretch of the canal to search, and they searched nearly 40 drains as well. So they were really, really looking for Leanne. Like, this was one of the biggest searches that the UK team had carried out.
Do you feel like they were doing as much to find her alive as they were to find a body? Like, are they looking at the same amount? Are they putting equal effort into houses as they are to places that you would find a body?
Well, the facts, I think that they were. They knocked on over 2,000 doors, but they actually searched over 1,500 buildings. But that specifically said buildings, so I don't know whether that was reference into like warehouses and empty buildings, or if that also included people's actual houses. But then also with the search warrants, I don't think that they would have been expecting to find a dead body in somebody's house. You know, they probably were more thinking that they would hopefully find her alive eventually. But yeah, it was. They were just really pretty much doing everything they could, you know, whether or not that she was found dead or alive. They were just doing everything possible, everything in their power, which was incredible to read about, because I haven't really heard of this case. It blew my mind. It really was. I know that they say, oh, things don't happen like in CSI and those crime scene investigation kind of TV shows, but this case, it really did. It made such an impact on the UK and the way that they carry out investigations, because they were working with local businesses, with transport people, with like the gas and power and water teams. Like, they were so much cross collaboration trying to find Leanne that it was like, look how much we can get done when we actually work together, you know. And it was just it was just such a huge deal. So a couple of weeks into the investigation, so she went missing on the 26th of November. So this was kind of like mid-December. I think just a couple of days before Christmas. Yeah, I know, it was awful, because her mum had said as well that she didn't want to celebrate, but she was also buying Leanne's presents in the hopes that she was going to be home for Christmas, you know. But it didn't feel Christmassy. She didn't want to celebrate, but she also wanted to be prepared, hoping that she did come home, you know. It was just
so right
heartbreaking.
answer in that one. There's no no right answer in that one.
I know, so sad. So yeah, a couple of weeks into the investigation, so just probably a few days before Christmas, I think it was, a promising lead came in about a man who had been seen walking his dog in the area about an hour or so before Leanne would have been getting off the bus. So it was probably around 3:30, 4 o'clock. He was described as around 5'8", a stocky build and a round reddish face. He was wearing a black woolly hat, a 3/4 length waterproof jacket and dirty jeans. His dog was like a terrier-like dog, but no one had seen this man or his dog since. So they released an e-fit. I've only found that picture on BBC News, so I couldn't find that anywhere further than that. But nobody reached out about this man. The e-fit, I mean, it looked like it was a good picture, but it did just look kind of like your average man, like middle-aged man. It didn't really look like anything special. There was no identifying features or anything like that. I guess maybe just the dog could have been identifiable, but then equally, if somebody had said, oh, I saw a man walking a golden retriever, there are so many golden retrievers in this area. And when you say a terrier-like dog, do you think of a Jack Russell, or do you think of like
a Yorkshire Terrier,
a Staffordshire Bull Terrier? Like, a Bull Terrier is also a terrier, you know? So it was just very, very, very broad.
Rosie knows
Christmas
her dogs.
Came and went. Oh, I do. If I know anything, I know dogs. So Christmas came and went, and leads steadily came in, but nothing was promising. The police received tips about her being seen in Doncaster, which isn't far, and another one in Blackpool, which is like 2, maybe 3 hours away, but they were all unconfirmed sightings and they didn't lead to anything. Until on August 20th, in 2001, a man named Mark was walking his dogs in Lindsay
so we're nearly
Wood.
a year.
Nearly a year.
9 months.
About 9 months exactly. Um, Lindley Woods is around 16 miles from Leanne's house and several miles from where she went missing. And he came across a shallow grave. The body was wrapped in a floral duvet cover and green bin bags, and it didn't take the police long to identify the body as missing teen Leanne Tiernan.
Sorry, slow down.
Go on.
Firstly, did you say 16 or 60 miles from where she lived and went missing?
16.
Okay, so we're close. That's really close. Not really, yeah. Okay. And when they say her body was identifiable, just by looking at her, or did they not specify? Was it a case of she's not been dead that long, or what's...
Okay, yeah, I'll get to that.
Okay,
let me just describe the scene, and I'll be able to, we'll come back to that. So the green bin bags had been secured with twine. They just likened it to her, she was wrapped like a Russian doll, but I don't understand that reference. Would you understand that? Because the way that they described it was that a bag was like a large bin bag was put over one end,
and then
tied,
over the bottom,
and then on the bottom, yes. Yeah. So that was done multiple times.
Not to make light of this, or I'm not trying to be funny. How I wrap up my Christmas tree, because you can't get my whole Christmas tree pieces into a bin bag. Yeah, you put one at the top, one at the bottom, and then I tie the bin bags in the middle.
Yeah, okay, yeah, no, that's fair enough. Yeah, awful. These green bin bags have been secured
multiple
with
times,
twine.
you said. Yeah, so it's not just once.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, multiple layers of these bin bags. They'd been secured with twine, and there was a black bin bag covering her head, which had been secured with a dog collar tightly around her neck. Her hands were bound with cable ties, and around her neck was a scarf and even more cable ties, and it was found that she had died by strangulation. It turns out, a few days before, a retired couple had seen a man carrying a large floral patterned bundle from the boot of his car into the woods, but they didn't think to say anything despite this ongoing investigation that had been going on in the area. But okay. Yeah, it's just normal for someone to be carrying a large...
Let me just go and chuck my duvet out in the packet. Yeah, I mean, worst case scenario, they're fly tipping in the forest. Oh...
But that's still illegal, you know? That's still illegal.
Like, worst case scenario, you've called the police and said, excuse me, I think they might be dumping a body, and it turns out he's just dumping a duvet.
Yeah, exactly. So back to what you said about her being able to be identified. The post-mortem showed that the level of decomposition was not consistent with the 9 months she had been missing. And so you had said that you asked if she'd been kept alive, but they don't think that that was the case. They think that she must have been kept in a cold environment for a prolonged period of time. So they think that she was possibly stored in a fridge or a freezer or something that was kind of preserving her body, say. And they think that she was only buried like not that long before she was found. So that would have been aligned with that couple seeing somebody walking through with that package.
That feeling, I know it sounds really bad, but I think if you were the family, if you found out, she's actually been alive for 8.5 months of that time, that would be...
That'd be awful.
Like somewhere your baby was calling for you. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Okay, this one is rough.
Yeah. I know. Oh, God, I know. So, but the I want to say positive, but it obviously wasn't a positive, but it just meant that because there wasn't as much decomposition and she had been preserved in such a way that the police were really hopeful that this meant that there'd be enough evidence to be able to learn something about her killer. Because not only did it preserve her body, but it also preserved any evidence and particulates that was on her body as well.
Yeah.
So the police carried out a fingertip search of the area. Do you know what that is? It is literally when they are crawling through the crime scene with their fingertips. Yeah. And this covered a 20,000 metre squared area around where she'd been found, which is Huge.
This is
What's your face?
wild. Like,
Yeah.
the police often, we hear it so much. 16-year-old run away with a boyfriend, did she? Well, and they're on their hands and knees.
Combing through, and like this isn't an easy terrain. It's woodland, you know. So there's
But also, how
leaves
many
and sticks
officers
and
does
mud
that
and
require?
it didn't actually. I didn't find anything specifying
No, but
how
my
many
point
officers.
is, it
But
must be so
yeah,
many for you to do that.
yeah,
Because
so
you know
many.
when you're
Yeah.
searching, you know when they send out search parties and they're doing it in like the grass, and they all have to go along
Yeah.
in a line because you don't want to have to keep going back and forth and miss bits.
Yeah.
So they all go along the line. So I reckon it would be something similar to that, which means
Yeah.
can you
That's a
imagine
lot.
taking your dog for a walk and just seeing
Just seeing
50
like,
police officers in a row
crawling through the woods. Nothing to see here.
I'll be over there peeing on their head. I'm sorry. Okay,
Only we could laugh during the case like this.
Sorry.
God damn it.
I'm back.
So one of the first things that they focused on were the things that she had been wrapped in. So they were looking at the dog collar, the twine, the cable ties, and the bin bags. Although the bin bag didn't really bring back much, the cable ties were found to be pretty much exclusively supplied to Royal Mail. But that didn't help narrow much down because they had hundreds, if not thousands, of employees. And all of those could have had access to those specific cable ties. So that was kind of a dead end for now. In terms of the dog collar, they contacted
I'm
over...
surprised at that.
What do you mean?
Well, you're in a specific area and they are only going to be available to Royal Mail employees, pretty much. Even if you narrowed your pool down to like...
I think it was the fact that you couldn't necessarily just go ahead and interview and take DNA samples of every single employee of the Royal Mail, because it was... I think they were more thinking, okay, maybe we can use this later, you know? It wasn't relevant yet, but they were hoping... Exactly.
Yeah.
In terms of the dog collar, they contacted over 100 different pet shops and suppliers, and they discovered that it had been made by a company based in Nottingham. So this company, they sold to wholesalers across the country. So they were thinking, crap, this is another dead end, like so many people could have bought this. But they were able to trace all of the purchases of the specific dog collar, and only one buyer was based in Leeds. So
wow.
They went to question him. His name was 44 his name was 44. The person...
Was he a postman?
We'll get to that. Yeah. Not quite, but almost. So this one man was 44-year-old John Taylor. They also learned that John Taylor would often go hunting in Lindley Woods, which is where Leanne's body was found. So police were suspicious. He obviously knew the terrain.
Hunting?
He was... Yeah, I mean, I think like rabbits and things like that, but... I
didn't think you were allowed to do that on public property.
I didn't think so either, but it is what it is. That's not... I didn't even look into that because I was like, I'm too laser focused on this. There's too much going on. I don't care if he did some minor hunting, like right now. I'm okay with this if we can catch him with something big. So, yeah. So they wanted to find more forensic evidence that would be able to connect him to this scene. So when they were going back and they were searching and collecting all of this evidence, they also found dog hair, pink fibres, and some human hair in the scarf around her neck, as well as pollen spores in her nasal cavity, hair, and on her skin. So these are all the kind of evidence that you really can connect to someone or somewhere. You know, this is this kind of evidence can be very specific to location or person. So they started analysing. They sent the dog hair off to Texas to create a partial profile for the breed of dog in question. This was like...
Why? When we did the Millie Dowler case, the CCTV had to go off to the FBI. Now we're identifying dog hair in Texas. Why don't we have this stuff available in this country?
I think this was quite a new form of profiling that not many people were doing this in anywhere in the world. Um, and it was quite a niche thing to be asking. So I think that's why they had to send it off to the US,
Okay.
not because they just do it better and we wanted to waste some time. They were going
We didn't
out
know.
of their way to get these answers, because they
Mm.
thought that it could link them, it had help link things to a particular murderer. So they created a partial
We best
profile
hope
for the.
we never murder anyone, because me, you, Lee, and Arlo shared so much.
Honestly,
They'd be like,
oh my god,
Black Labrador, Lilo,
check.
Rosie.
Yeah, 100%. Oh my gosh, they will be the reason that we get put in prison for sure.
Don't go hanging out with
Although
any
they were
murderers,
able
King.
to. Please let me just do this. Every time I think that you're done, you say something else, and I'm like saying the same sentence over and over again. I'm good. Are you ready? Are you finished? Any more quips about dogs being accomplices? Anything? Anything you got? No? Nothing? You good?
I'm done.
Yeah? So
Yeah.
although it was a success and they were able to find a partial profile for the type breed of dog, and John did have a dog at the time of Leanne's disappearance, it had unfortunately passed away since, so they weren't ever able to match the DNA profile with John's dog. So although that didn't work out, that was actually the first time that canine forensic profiling had ever been used in a British criminal
Did they
case.
say what type of dog?
It didn't specify what type of dog. It just said that they created a partial profile, so they didn't.
So we don't know
really
if it was a
specify.
terrier.
No, it didn't.
Okay.
But yeah, so like I said, this was like unheard of, really. This was the first time that canine forensic profiling had been used in a British criminal case. So they were really going above and beyond to find answers. During this time, they were also digging into John Taylor. They looked into his past, chatted to his neighbours, past girlfriends, and guess where he worked? You've already guessed it.
The post
Parcel
office.
Force, which is
Oh.
owned by Royal Mail, which is where the cable
it?
ties were connected to. Yes, Parcel Force
Okay.
worldwide. So, with this, on the 16th of October 2001, they had enough to arrest John Taylor and search his house pretty much immediately. I saw a thing, I saw an article that said that they basically put like 6-foot walls up around his house just to enclose the whole thing, carry out their investigation, make sure that nobody was walking by, no one was interfering, and they just got stuck in and literally did the works on his house. Like, they didn't leave any stones unturned.
So can I just check? The evidence that they have on him is the
Right now, currently,
the
the
zip
cable
ties.
ties.
Only the cable ties are only for a specific place, and also they have the DNA
Dog collar.
on the dog collar.
No, so the DNA wasn't on the dog collar. The dog collar was just a very specific purchase.
Sorry, yeah, it was just
he was the only person in Leeds.
But the DNA forensics that they did were on the dog, but they couldn't specify 100% whether or not that was his dog.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
But because with both the dog collar tracing back to John Taylor, and then the fact that he works at Parcel Force with the cable ties that were very specific to Royal Mail and Parcel Force, that was enough for them to be able to get a warrant and say there are 2 lines of investigation here that are leading both to the same person, so we're good.
So it's good for a warrant and an arrest, but realistically, in a court of law, a defence lawyer would get him off.
They're going to need more. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So remember there was a hair in the scarf that was around her neck? They had to also do a special analysis on this as well. So, because usually, I don't know how much you know about DNA analysis from hairs, but they usually take it from the root.
Has to be from the
hair.
The follicle, that bit.
Yeah. But they weren't able to do that. So instead, they had to extract DNA from the hair shaft, which involves like a really unique mitochondrial process that, I mean, is 100% good and solid, but it was just something that was a very new process, and I mean, again,
so why so often do they say, "Oh, we don't have the route, so therefore we can't do it"?
I actually genuinely I don't know, but that it might be because that was from. This was in 2001. I don't know if the cases are before there or if more recently they are able to do that, but that DNA evidence linked and was a direct match to John Taylor, the hair that was found on her body.
Oh, it was.
So they were already, were already on him, exactly. In the house, they started finding all sorts of things that they were hoping to be able to link to him. The twine that was used to tie up her body, they found that it was an unusual kind, often used for rabbit netting, which makes me think that's what he was hunting in the woods.
Oh, yeah,
and
hunting.
They tracked it down to a specific manufacturer in Devon who said that they only ever made
to do
one...
more shopping in B&Q.
Yeah, tell me about it. Like,
he needs to
stop
go more
buying
generic.
one-off things.
Vets for
yeah,
pets,
Amazon.
B&Q, Amazon it.
Pay with cash.
But honestly, who in the world has one-of-a-kind twine that can be traced to Devon?
Genuinely, I
twine,
know.
And I can't even tell you where I got it. I guarantee it was like the pound shop.
Or Wilco's or something like that.
Or
yeah.
a garden centre.
Yeah, yeah.
Not
I'm not buying one of a kind.
In Devon from Shirley on the beach. Jesus Christ, what an idiot.
I know. He really did not think this through.
He did not think this through.
You'd think that if there was one batch of this particular twine, there's this one batch of this particular twine that was made in Devon, there shouldn't be much of it in circulation, right? And turns out there wasn't. As a hunter, John obviously had various ropes and twines around his house, and they found an identical match. Identical. There was, obviously. The pollen spores that they had found.
Rabbit hunting.
Yeah, tell me about it. The pollen spores that they found were also a match to the seeds, pollen. What? What have I done now?
No, nothing. It's going to be like he had this one-of-a-kind houseplant that only grew in Bosnia, and he had it imported especially so that he could feed it to his cat or something. I don't know. It's just gonna... I just made up a whole story
one, but
about
the next
one.
There's not the pollen spores.
Okay,
not the pollen spores, but the carpet fibres were actually the case for that.
It's hand spun by a Persian prince who only ever sold one. Oh,
literally. The pollen spores were also matched to the seeds, pollen, and wildlife that were found in John Taylor's yard. And there were, I saw them described as pink and red, but, some people don't know the difference. So these pinkish reddish fibres that were found on Leanne's body were also found in John Taylor's home, stuck to a nail and under his floorboards, along with blood. And they discovered that he had ripped up this pink carpet and destroyed it shortly after Leanne went missing. And also, this carpet was dyed in a very specific way, like a very niche way of dyeing and
tie-dye carpet.
Literally, honestly, I've no idea why he's buying all of these very niche things, but yeah. So they were, again, able to find and link these fibres to John Taylor's house. They also dug up his garden and found the remains of several ferrets and dogs, one of which was a terrier-type dog, which had died from a blow to the head. And the police believed that he had killed the dog after that e-fit was released, and they'd asked the public to look out for a man with that kind of dog. I know.
Shut
that
up.
Was like, I know. Such a nasty piece of work. Vile, vile man.
Sorry. So he killed the dog because he thought the dog was going to give him away, but he had a one-of-a-kind twine, one-of-a-kind carpet.
Yeah.
One-of-a-kind dog collar.
And his hair on the... and the pollen spores, everything.
But the dog's the problem.
Yeah,
the dog's stupid, absolute soggy sandwich. What an idiot.
Genuinely, the anger, the rage that I felt, I still feel for this man. But this is what I mean by no stones were left
Well, I'm not
unturned.
surprised. He probably picked those stones from a private beach in Kuala Lumpur, and he didn't want to leave them behind. And just Kuala Lumpur beaches, is it?
Oh God, Catherine!
Flew them in and engraved his initials on each of them. Idiot.
Anyway, and then the witnesses started stepping forward.
So where have they been?
All of his ex-girlfriends, once they knew that he had been arrested and they were looking into him for murder of a 16-year-old, past girlfriends reached out to the police to speak of his weird obsession with cable tying them up when they were having sex. One of them even said that they broke up with him because she felt as if she was being raped by him when they were having sex. So he was showing these tendencies even in his normal adult relationships. But I guess you just think, I mean, I don't know why these women didn't think to come forward, but they probably wouldn't have thought, okay, I'm in a relationship, this is actually rape, you know? They were probably just thinking that it was consensual sex and they just didn't like it. Also, I don't know.
What do you do with this information? You can't call the police and be like, excuse me, I had sex last night.
Yeah.
And my boyfriend used a cable tie to tie me up. Like,
finally, a neighbour who had been in John Taylor's house before said that he used to have a large freezer that was no longer on his property. Although it was never recovered, the police believe that this is why he was forced to dump Leanne's body, because the freezer had stopped working and that was where he had been storing her body. This case really reshaped criminal investigations in the UK. They used innovative methods to analyse the evidence, which are still in use today, and it influenced changes in the process of how the evidence was collected and analysed thereafter. So it made huge waves in this industry, and it was
the police did
huge.
Great. They really did. So
they
good.
really, really did. If you consider that they found her in August 20th, 2001, they arrested him for murder in October, the 16th of October, 2001. So that was like 2 months. 2 months. 2 months after she was found that they were able to connect him.
So had they made all of those connections by the time they arrested him? Oh, no, they hadn't. They hadn't found the carpet bit yet. But everything else, they'd done all of that. So even to do that, if you think about the forensic stuff that I talked about with the last one, it's a very quick turnaround to even get all of those positive matches for the dog collar. Yeah. I mean, that's super I think that quick.
Yeah, they had arrested him with kind of like the circumstantial evidence of the dog collar and his job and that kind of thing. And then they'd also thought about his connection to the fact that he had a dog and there were dog.
Yeah, and parcel force.
Yeah, exactly. And so they had arrested him on those grounds, and then it was while he was in remand and they were investigating him further that they were able to find all of the other evidence, because it wasn't until February 2002 it wasn't until July 2002 that they actually went to trial. But it was in February 2002 that Taylor admitted to abducting her. But get this, he said that his story was that he admitted to abducting her, but said that she had fallen off his bed and banged her head. Thinking that she had died, he then picked her up by the scarf that was around her neck at the time, and that's what must have strangled and killed her. He is just fucking stupid at the end of the day. Like, he's just fucking stupid.
I'm so glad he's stupid. When they refer to these people as like the mastermind behind the crime, you're not a mastermind.
Yeah.
You are a sick, sadistic, twisted loser.
Yeah. No, thanks. And then he said that he panicked, which led him to keep her in his freezer for 9 months. And then it was after 9 months, when his freezer broke, that he actually buried her in the woods. But because he panicked and it was all an accident, of course. Stupid fucking testicle. Finally, on the 8th of July 2002...
So I just say, you have not got the name calling down. A testicle is useful. It's not to everyone's liking, but it is useful. I'm just saying.
What about a soggy testicle? If
Again,
it's soggy.
you know.
Finally, on the 8th of July 2002, on the first official day of the murder trial, John Taylor pleaded guilty to the abduction and murder of Leanne.
That was on day one of the trial.
That was on day one of the trial. He
Absolute loser.
guilty.
That means he gets 10% of the sentence off, isn't it? Yes.
But, I mean, it gave me chills when I read that the public gallery cheered when they sentenced him with murder. Like, it must have been such an incredible rush to have been there and to experience something like that, because this sicko was actually finally going to jail. However, this unfortunately is not the end of the story. Because of how cold and calculated this murder was, the police believed that this may not have been his first crime, and they were right. On April 2003, John Taylor pleaded guilty to 2 more counts of rape in 1988 and 1989 after DNA evidence connected him to them both. One woman was 32 and she was walking near Hooley Gill, I think it's how you pronounce it, when, armed with a mask and a knife, John Taylor attacked her and raped her. And the second was on the 3rd of April 1989 when he broke into a 21-year-old's house and raped her with her baby in the next room. The judge sentenced him to life imprisonment again.
Did he kill either of those women?
No, he didn't kill them.
Oh, thank God.
So the judge sentenced him to life imprisonment again without possibility of parole for 30 years. And then on the 26th of October 2018, after further advances in DNA testing, he was given a whole life order as he was linked and confessed to 5 further assaults against a 19-year-old who was raped on her way back to work in 1977, a 27-year-old who he forced to perform a sexual act on him while she was out walking with her 3 children in 1982, a 7-year-old whom he indecently assaulted in 1984, and a 26-year-old who he dragged off of her bike as she cycled to work and he raped her in 1987. He has also been suspected for the murder of a sex worker named Yvonne Fitt, whose body was found just 100 yards from where Leanne was found, but no evidence has proven this yet. And this has also prompted other cases to be reopened, including Deborah Allison Wood, Lindsay Jo Reimer and Rebecca Hall, who they believe all could be connected due to the nature of their murders, the area that they were found in, and other similar circumstances. But those are still ongoing investigations. They're cold cases now that they're trying to link to him, or the fact that all of these advances in forensic analysis has enabled them to look at more evidence. So there are some positives that have come to his conviction, but honestly, the destruction that he's left in his wake is just, it's like nothing that I've read about before. You know, this man, it was cold and calculated.
Gravity is just
rough. Really, really bloody rough.
7 years. Oh, that one got me. Oh, that one got me right in the heart. How?
Yeah. It's just, he was just such a vile human being.
This is where I don't ever think that there is enough of a punishment.
No.
This is where I find it really hard, because I don't agree with the death penalty. I also think killing someone is an easy way out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think medieval torture is the way to go. I think, you know.
I mean, you probably get more confessions that way as well. And then once they've confessed, I feel like you can kill them. No?
No, I just think there's no way
they need to suffer.
Yeah. I just don't think you can hurt that many women. And also, like, to her mother when she's out with her children. And her whole thought process must be to protect her children.
Yeah.
You know? Well, that was a horrible case. Thanks for that. Well done to Leanne. She brought to justice this evil, evil, evil. Is he still alive?
Yeah, he's still alive, but he's in prison for the rest of his life. He's going to die in prison.
I hope that's not all that happens to him in prison.
Yeah, me either.
Well, yours comes out on Friday, so happy Friday. I hope you're all, we've cheered you up for the weekend.
Please follow us on all of our socials. We are 26tolife_pod on Instagram and TikTok, and 26tolifepod on Spotify and YouTube, where you can listen to our full episodes.
And subscribe and leave nice comments and
be nice to us. Just like
5-star reviews and tell people about it. If you tell one person and they tell one person, eventually this will be our full-time job and we will be forever grateful. So
that would be real nice. Yeah.